I pledge allegiance
allegiance
to the
to
flag
the flag
of
of
the
the
United
United
States
States
of
of America
America,
and to the
to the
republic
republic
stands
which
and
stands
one nation,
nation
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
indivisible, with
liberty,
liberty
justice
and
for all.
justice for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies or any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the vision of this act, the Riverdale Regional Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be publicized, to have the date, time, and place thereof sent to the record, the Ridgewood News, and the town news newspapers, the constituent borough clerks and borough libraries, as well as posting in the school districts, principal's offices, faculty rooms, and board office. According to New Jersey Public Law 2001, Chapter 226, the smoking or use of any tobacco product is strictly prohibited anywhere in the public school buildings or anywhere in school grounds, including but not limited to parking lots, grassy areas, and athletic fields. Violators will be subject to a fine not to exceed $100. Okay, roll call. Claudia?
Here.
Alan?
here.
John?
Here.
Tracy Allen?
Here.
Doug?
Here.
Barbara?
Here.
Stephanie?
Here.
Joe?
Here.
And Al.
Here. I'm going to read the mission statement tonight. The mission of the Riverdale Regional School District is to provide a safe, student-centered environment in which each student is valued and respected, to challenge each student to reach his or her potential, to nurture every student's intellectual, social, physical, and emotional growth, to promote a healthy work ethic, a passion for learning, and a respect for oneself and others, to develop responsible citizens for our diverse community and an ever-changing world, to continue to involve our community in an active partnership, to provide all students the opportunity to achieve and exceed the New Jersey Student Learning Standards and the New Jersey Core Curriculum Content Standards. We move on to public comments on agenda items only. There will be a part of the agenda at the end for public comments on other items that are not on the agenda. So does anybody in the public out there have any comments on agenda items only? Okay. We move on to a presentation by Patrick Fletcher, our superintendent. Patrick?
Thank you, Al. I'm going to break this up into two pieces. I don't have another report to give later this evening until we get to the end of the agenda, where I would like to then speak about graduation possibilities, and we would be right at the time where public comment would be accepted. So under the presentations, this is the time of the year that we would normally celebrate our service recognition for our staff members. And we've had a long tradition at Riverdale of celebrating the people's service in 5-year increments, beginning after 10 years of service. So tonight, we are honoring those individuals who have 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, and 30 years of service, and then several individuals who will be retiring. So for our 15 years of service, we have April Clark, who's a math teacher at the high school, Barbara Conley, who's a media library specialist at the high school, Stefan Del Piano, teacher of English at the high school, Carol Guerrera, who is a teacher of French at the middle school, Kier Halstetter, who is a teacher of mathematics at the high school, Andrea Lauterbach is a teacher of physical education at the high school. Maria Mio, who is a member of our child study team who serves both middle school and high school populations. Ron Shoemaker, who's the head custodian at the high school. Lindsay Silverman, who's a teacher of English at the high school. Jennifer Stuber, who is, or as most people remember her, Liberto, and still refer to her as that, who is our senior options coordinator at the high school, and Heather Walker, who is a teacher of English at the middle school. In the 20-year category, we have Mary Lynn Borges, teacher of mathematics at the middle school. Drew Caruso, teacher of phys ed at the middle school. Anthony Castora, who is a teacher aide, teacher assistant in our special education program. He currently serves with students at the high school. Lori Dunn, who is a teacher of science at the high school. Michael Dunphy, who's a member of our tech department at the high school and middle school. Barbara Rodak, who is a part-time administrative assistant at the high school. Tricia Metz, teacher of mathematics at the high school. Melissa Miller, teacher of art at the middle school. And Michael O'Toole, teacher of social studies at the high school. In the 25-year category, we have Grace Marie Lamparello, who is a member of our child study team and serves populations in both the middle school and the high school. Lisa Torres, who is a supervisor of language arts, English, and social studies at both the middle school and the high school. And George Tucci, who is also on our retiree list, but George is completing 25 years of service as a teacher of art at the high school. And we have two individuals who have completed 30 years of service. That's Anthony Ciccatelli, who is one of our, we used to call it shop, but now we call it technology at the middle school. And Pete LaBarbiera, who is a teacher of special education at the middle school. So you can see that one of the things that we're blessed with at Riverdale is a quality staff that stays with us for quite a long time. Crossing over into the retirements, we have 9 individuals who are retiring or retired during the course of this last school year. Barbara Balkin, who is a speech pathologist at the middle school and the high school. She's retiring after 27 years of service. Victor Luhadi, who is a custodian at the middle school, who is retiring after 16 and a half years of service. Doug Habenstreet, who retired from our maintenance department after 6 years of service. Robert Doc Doherty, who is the head custodian at the middle school, is retiring after 11 and a half years of service. I'm skipping one at the moment. We have Kathy Guzman, who was our payroll coordinator at the in the business office, worked with Mr. Bonfiglio, and she retired after 9 years, covering 2 different stints with us. As I indicated, George Tucci is retiring after 25 years of service as a teacher of art, and Sue Keitel, who is retiring after 17 years of teaching here English in the middle school. 2 individuals that will be sorely missed here. First is Lorraine Brooks, our principal from the high school, who is retiring after 27 years of service. When she and I were talking recently about the last year, it's something that none of us, I think, could have imagined. It's certainly not something that I would imagine she did as the final aspect of her career here at Riverdale. But Lorraine's probably seen it all and been part of it all. And now we're in the position where we're going to be looking to fill that position once we get through the remainder of this very interesting school year. And finally, Sue Mormino, who is my right arm, who is the executive secretary to the superintendent of schools. She's been with me for the 14 years that I'm here, and she's a graduate of Riverdale, and she's been working with us for 29 years. So Sue has also seen almost anything that could possibly go by, and she's like the historian of the district. If we ever have questions about, hey, what happened to Bill Parcells, as an example, Sue can answer those questions for us. She will be sorely missed by the district, and there'll be a hole in my heart as she, goes out of the building in the next couple of years, next couple of weeks. So that concludes the presentation regarding service, years of service recognition, as well as our retirees. As I said, under superintendent's report, I'm going to delay the report that I have on the agenda till we get to the end of the regular session when we talk about graduation.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. We would typically move into the student member report at this time. I hope I speak for the board. We all miss Grayson and Allison. I hope they're doing well, staying healthy, and enjoying their virtual instruction. We would go into the president's report at this time. I only have a couple quick things, and I know there are 3 seats up for a re-election. I guess it's in November. Doug, Tracy Ellen, and myself. And just a reminder that if you do intend to run for the for the seat, that you need to get the petition into the county by July 27th. And this is just a gentle reminder to Patrick on your self-evaluation.
Yep.
We will move with our evaluation of the superintendent once you get your self-evaluation. That concludes my report. Patrick said he will brief everybody at the end of the meeting. As far as committee reports, again, I don't want to speak out of turn here, but I don't think anybody has met since our last meeting, which was only, it seems like a couple of weeks ago. If any chairperson of their committee has something to say, please feel free right now.
I just want to say that I had talked to Tom earlier today, and as soon as he feels he has all his ducks in a row with the governor, cutting the school budgets, I would like to hold a meeting at that point.
Okay.
But I'll wait for Tom to get back to us on that.
And that was Alan representing the Budget and Finance Committee, by the way.
I'm sorry.
Patrick, it's Stephanie with curriculum. Are we having another meeting before the end of the school year?
Right now, the answer to that is no, simply because the only thing that we have to present would be any of the curriculum, which we just approved the summer writing for the 2 courses. We don't have anything else on the agenda yet. I'm assuming as we get closer to issues related to perhaps a modified reopening of schools in September, that there will be a need to do so. But right now we're up to date, is what I'm saying.
Could you perhaps ask Jeff to help you out or whatever, and just send out to the committee courses that were unsubscribed or courses that might need additional staff due to how they fell out?
Yeah, there, just to bring everybody up to speed, Normally, we are in a position where we notify staff to their teaching assignments by June 1st. I've asked the association to consider moving that deadline to June 30th due to the current conditions that we are operating, which has given us some flexibility to have both the middle school and high school complete their schedules. And there's been a couple of tweaks here and there before they give me the final numbers in the classes and where everybody is. So yeah, we can do that when it's done.
Okay, and then you referenced on executive there, we discussed the two staff members who are doing or on there for summer writing, and yes, I know they're science writers, but it doesn't reference what they're actually doing. So if you can just write it to everybody what curriculum it is that they'll be doing.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else from their respective committee? Okay, very good. Let's move into the consent agenda then, please. May I have a motion for consent agenda?
I'll make a motion. It's Claudia.
I'll second it, Alan.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions or issues with anything on the consent agenda? Nobody? Okay. When you're ready.
Claudia,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes,
John? John,
He's muted.
Yes.
Tracy Allen,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
and Al.
Yes. Okay, we move to the first vote under Roman numeral 7, personnel. Letter E, appointments. Number 1, it is recommended by the superintendent that the board approve the appointment of Thomas Bonfiglio to the position of administrator/board secretary for the period of July 1, 2020 through June 30th, 2021, in accordance with the terms and condition of the contract attached to the board secretary's copy of this agenda.
I'll make that motion, Al. It's Joe.
Okay, Joe, thank you. Second?
and I'll second it. It's Alan.
Thank you, Alan. Does anybody have any questions or concerns here before we take the vote? Okay. Tom, when you're ready, please.
Claudia,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes,
John,
Yes.
Tracy Allen,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Stephanie,
I'm voting no, but not because of the personnel, but the process by which this all came about, which I had expressed to Patrick and Al previously.
Joe,
Yes.
and Al.
Yes. Okay, now we move on to the second vote, please. Under Roman numeral 7, personnel, under E, appointments. Number 2, it is recommended by the superintendent that the board approve the appointment of William Feldman to the position of superintendent for curriculum, instruction, and supervision for the period of July 1, 2020 through June 30th, 2021, in accordance with the terms and condition of the contract attached to the board secretary's copy of this agenda. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion. This is Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
I'll
Second?
it, Doug.
Okay. Again, do we have any questions or concerns here?
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Doug?
Doug.
Okay. Tom, when you're ready?
Claudia,
Yes.
Alan,
yes,
John,
Yes.
Tracy Allen,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Stephanie,
No, again, not related to personnel.
Joe,
Yes.
and Al.
Yes. Okay. Vote number 3. Roman numeral 9, miscellaneous. And I'll read this as fast as I can. Whereas on April 27th, 2020, the Riverdale Regional Board of Education continued the suspension of student bearing the identification number 222297 until the June 1, 2020 board meeting. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby continues the suspension until the end of the school year, June 18, 2020. Be it further resolved that the Board of Education hereby further determines that the student shall not be present on any of the Board of Education schools' campuses before, during, and after the regularly scheduled school day during the period of his or her suspension, unless specifically authorized by the superintendent. Be it further resolved that the Board of Education hereby further determines that the student shall not be permitted to participate in any athletic, co-curricular, or extracurricular activities sponsored by the Board of Education, and shall not be present for or attend any Board of Education sponsored activities, either on campus or in any school district where the Riverdale Regional School District is participating in the activities during the period of suspension. Be it further resolved that an alternate education shall continue to be provided to the student during his/her suspension. May I have a motion, please?
I make a motion.
Claudia?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, second?
I'll second Tracy Ellen.
Okay, thank you, Tracy Ellen. Are there any questions concerning the suspension? Okay, Tom, when you're ready, please.
Claudia,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Tracy Ellen,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Stephanie,
I'm going to abstain.
Joe,
Yes.
and Al.
Yes. Okay. I believe that brings us to old business / new business. Anybody have anything for us?
Al, it's Stephanie.
Yes.
I know over the years, there's been a lot of items that have happened in the country, and our students have rallied and had a voice and come together, and that's not happening for them now, even though there are circumstances that they might want to come together and share their voice. So I would just say, when they're moving on and becoming graduates, the best thing that they have is their ability to vote. And so just kind of reminding them that all these milestones that are coming for them, that's one of the biggest milestones they'll ever get. And they should use it individually and collectively to make a world for themselves that they'd like to envision.
Anybody else have anything for us tonight? And I know Patrick is going to touch on this, and because we've been getting some letters and emails and everything concerning graduation, and I don't know why anybody would feel that we would want to deny any student their graduation day, and Patrick, thank goodness, is going to explain in a little more detail in a minute here. But there'd be nothing more for us we would be more than happy to have a regular full-blown graduation on the athletic field or the stadium field for our 263 graduates. There are so many restrictions in place right now that prevent us from doing that. But I don't want anyone in the community to feel that we are, as a board, stymieing anything to prevent this from happening. That's all I really want to say about that. Does anyone else have anything to say, old business, new business, before we give Patrick the microphone?
Al, just a quick thank you to Mr. Trina, and I see actually on our people here, I see Mr. Smith. Fred is on here too. The salute they both did towards the senior athletes was very nice. The video was put together and all the stuff that Fred did for the field and him and Bruce. So I just want to publicly say thanks again for both of them. Another way of trying to find a way to honor the students, besides, as you said, trying our best to do the graduation that they would hope for, but everybody's trying to do their little part. So thanks, Fred, and thanks, Mr. Trina.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Patrick, would you like to give your superintendent's report now?
The second half of the report, yeah. Thank you. So I want to talk about graduation options for the class of 2020. And bear with me, everybody. I need to provide some context to the next to my recommendations. So, as you are aware, the school districts in the state of New Jersey were given an order to close schools effective 3 p.m. on March 13th, 2020. That order was issued on March 10th by the governor of the state of New Jersey. Subsequent to that initial order, I don't think anybody at that time felt that we would be closed through the rest of the school year. I did not, I can tell you. However, as the weeks continued and the public health crisis deepened, the school closure was extended 3 different times. And finally, the governor issued an order around May 6th that the schools would remain closed to the rest of the academic school year. The governor had previously made a statement that he would be making a decision regarding school closures for the week of May 13th. And with that date in mind, Riverdale had set up its opportunities to begin to honor the class of 2020 concurrent with what we anticipated to be his announcement in the middle of May. So when he stepped up the timeline, we still kept our timeline, and I think the space between his announcement at the beginning of May and when he was supposed to make the announcement in the middle of May had created an opportunity for there to be some unease and a lot of questions regarding what end of year activities would look like. We were issued, I want to say around May 12th, we received a direction from the New Jersey Department of Education and the state police office. And the reason it came from the state police is because Colonel Callahan, who is also the state police superintendent, is the director of the Office of Emergency Management for the state of New Jersey. So guidance was issued on or around May 12th or May around there, which indicated that all end of year activities were to be virtual in order to maintain the social distancing to mitigate the spread of the COVID virus. Subsequent to that, on or about May 26th, the governor issued a statement at a press conference, which was subsequently tweeted out, that he would allow in-person graduations effective July 6th. I think some of the further confusion that created is that the words he used were modified in-person graduations, but social media and the rest of the world only picked up the words in-person graduations. And immediately we began to think that we would be in a position to have a traditional graduation ceremony on the field with every member of the class in attendance and guests. However, on May 27th at around 8:30 p.m., and then again on May 28th around 10:30 p.m., additional guidance was issued from the New Jersey Department of Education and the governor's office on what the conditions are for modified in-person graduation. And while I was very pleased to hear the fact that there would be the opportunity to have an in-person graduation, I was very concerned that the conditions that would be attached to it would be so restrictive that they make them practically impossible. And unfortunately, I still feel that way now that I've been able to review the guidance. There are multiple conditions that were put on the modified in-person ceremony. I'm going to list a couple of them because these are the ones I think that we need to keep most at the forefront and people need to most understand. First, they cannot take place until July 6th. Second, they may not take place on July 7th because that is the renewed revised primary day for the state of New Jersey. So the first available date is July 6th. The next available date is July 8th, and then it's any time thereafter. There are a whole slew of conditions that are listed regarding how people are to arrive, how they are to maintain social distancing, what cleaning practices need to be put in place as far as disinfectant is concerned. There's a recommendation that we take temperatures of all the individuals who come to the facility or come to the program. And most profoundly, there is the statement that says that these ceremonies must meet the relevant capacity limitation on in-person gatherings in place at the time of the ceremony. Now, what that statement means is that we have to comply with the current rules and regulations that are in existence regarding outdoor gatherings. Today, that number is 25, which means that we could only have 25 people at one time at an outdoor location. And if in order to have a ceremony. So let's think about that for just a second. For 25 individuals to be together, that includes any administration and staff that need to be present, and it excludes local law enforcement. So if we had a graduate attend with 2 guests, we would be able to have 7 graduates at one moment come through with 2 guests each. That's a total of 21. There would be 3 administrators or staff members present. That's a total of 24. There's 263 students in the graduating class, which would mean that we would have to have 38 separate ceremonies in order to have every student go through that kind of approach. I don't think that is what anyone imagined when they started listening to the term in-person commencement ceremonies. The guidance that we received says, in fact, that multiple ceremonies may be required. In order for us to have a relevant opportunity to have a meaningfully sized in-person graduation, we would need that capacity limit to go up to about 400. If we were able to have 400 individuals at one time, then what would be the case is that we could graduate roughly half a class at the time with 2 guests and the appropriate number of staff that we would need in order to implement that kind of a service. The other restrictions that are listed there are suggestions about limiting the scope of the graduation ceremony, limiting the number of speakers, not having bands and choruses together in order to present those kinds of things. So what it really boils down to is the opportunity for the graduate to be able to walk across the stage and have their picture opportunity for the commemoration of the hard work that they've put in for the last 13 years to get to this point. The other aspect of this that is also very concerning to me as the superintendent of schools is that the State Department of New Jersey has imposed an obligation that the district sign off, which in case would be me, that we would be in compliance with all of these capacity limitations and social distancing guidelines at the time that the ceremony is being performed. Further, we have to issue that certification 7 days before the actual ceremony. So what I'm also recommending is that we set a date of July 8th as the opportunity to have an in-person graduation ceremony only under the condition that the capacity limitation be lifted to at least 400. So practically speaking, by July 1st, the capacity limitation has to be lifted to 400 so that I could complete the certification and file it on time, and then put in process a two session program where you would have half the class graduating at one point and then half the class graduating at a second point. And there would have to be sufficient distance between the 2 ceremonies in order to go through the disinfectant protocols that are required. Further, we would have to have a rain date available, which I would suggest to be July 9th, so that we would either do a 2 ceremonies July 8th or 2 ceremonies July 9th. But again, only under the conditions that the capacity limitations would go up to 400. However, I am also recommending that on June 18th, which is our official graduation day, that we set up the opportunity for a drive-through in-person ceremony, which is permitted under the same guidance. In that regard, the graduate and 2 guests would be able to come to the school where, by appointment or within a time range, where they would be able to exit the car. The graduate would be able to have a photograph taken on our makeshift stage with the diploma, and then have their guests join them on the stage for a picture, which the board would support the cost of those photographs. Then what would happen is the graduate and their family would get back in the car and move off, and then the next graduate would come up. So like, a parade of cars coming through, only one group of people would be able to exit the car at a time and be able to go and have the photograph taken. That would meet all the guidelines. It stays within the limitations of 25. And we could also, if inclement weather was a problem, we could also, because we would be under or be about 10, we would be able to relocate inside the facility should inclement weather interfere with that day. So what I'm suggesting is that we try to accommodate two different aspects of the graduation ceremony. One on June 18th with the photo opportunity for the graduate and for their family. And then should the capacity limitation go up, that we would have a ceremony planned for, or two ceremonies planned for July 8th and July 9th. However, it would be remiss on my part if I didn't indicate that I am still doubtful that the capacity limitations are going to be lifted to a point that any school of a moderate size is going to be able to have some form of an in-person ceremony that closely resembles what we normally do in our traditional program. So further, in order for this to happen after June 30th, we would have to get confirmation from our insurance carrier that we are covered. Thankfully, Mr. Bonfiglio has already contacted our insurance company and secured coverage based upon board approval of the date and the event. Further, we would have to have a permission slip that we would issue electronically to everybody for them to provide back to us for those who would participate in that ceremony on July 8th or 9th. And that's because technically the students have graduated after June 30th, and we would need just some form of acknowledgement that they're participating in the ceremony that the board approved that has insurance coverage thereafter. So that's a lot that I threw at you. At this point, really what we would want to do is have any conversation from the board. I would suggest that we let any member of the public have an opportunity to speak if they would like to. And then if the board is inclined, I would ask for approval to have the ceremony on the 8th with a rain day of the 9th. And then we would begin our massive amount of communication that would go out to the graduation, to the class of 2020 and their parents. We will also be sending out a whole other list of communications to that class as well as to the others regarding the dates where they would have to come to collect their any personal belongings that are left here, return any books or property that they have from the school, and for the 8th grade and for the 12th grade, return their laptops to the district. And of course, any other student who would be leaving the district, regardless of their grade, they would have to provide in return of any property and or laptops. We are also planning among all of the other graduation or class of 2020 honor programs that have gone on already and will continue. We are planning to have a video presentation for the academic scholarships, which normally would be on June 4th, but are going to be delayed till June 11th. And then the regular scholarship program, where we also honor the valedictorian and salutatorian, that would be what was also done, but in the evening on June 4th. That's going to be done on June 11th. So there's a whole host of other communication things that need to continue to go forward with the classes. So board members, I'm available to answer any questions regarding graduations.
Al, can I go first?
Sure, go ahead.
I got two questions. First one is actually for Mr. Wachter. Is Mark, I'm assuming that you'll have this put, because I know it's being recorded. you'll have this posted on the website probably within a day or so, because obviously there's not a lot of public here so that they can hear what Mr. Fletcher had to say. So I'm assuming it probably within 2 days.
Yes, we'll have something available within 2 days. Yes.
Okay.
I'll
And-
coordinate with Mr. Traina.
Okay, and number two, Patrick, I would also assume that if June 18th, the drive-by, would we also have the virtual ceremony done so that the valedictorian, salutatorian, and the class president and whatnot can do their speeches and whatnot? Would that be something you didn't include that, so I didn't know if that's part of it as well.
Yeah, thanks, Joe, for bringing that up. I did not
Okay.
speak about the virtual ceremony, but yes, we are still in the process of completing the virtual ceremony. It would air at 5:15 on June 18th. We will be recording the speeches that you mentioned, I think tomorrow and Wednesday, including the board president's speech and the other individuals. So we would still have a traditional program, but in video format, minus the band and the chorus.
Thank you. And the flyby.
Right.
Excuse me, just to clarify this, Patrick, the June 18th drive-by, that's going to happen. And if things change by July 1st, we are definitely going through with the in-person graduation on July 8th, rain date July 9th. Correct? So there could be technically two graduations, a virtual and in-person if the restrictions are lifted.
Correct.
Okay.
But we would also then be in a position, because of the permission slip, to actually know how many people would want to participate. You know, there may be some individuals that have decided not to participate or have gone on vacation or whatever. The one problem that I think we all have to acknowledge is that any date that's chosen other than June 18th, any date, there's going to be conflicts with other family obligations. Because we've all known that June 18th is the date of graduation. We've known that for over a year.
Pat, it's Doug. Just quick question on the date. Does it make any sense to, just pick June 18th as the date for either the drive-by or the in-person or the full ceremony, and just do it, it's one shot that date, depending on what happens?
Doug, it's a great question. It's one I would love to be able to answer yes to, but the answer is no, because in-person ceremonies are only allowed after July 6th.
Got it.
The drive-by, if you will, or the single in-person is allowed under the revised guidance that was issued May 28th.
Okay, and then one other quick question on the drive-by. I know we're talking about just, for logistics purposes, having two family members come out of the car and then go up on the stage. Are we limiting, let's say, brothers and sisters that would be in that same car if it's outside so that they could see what is occurring? Or what is your thought on that?
My thought is that we would still have to follow the responsibilities that are in there, that are embedded in the guidance, which means that if there are other individuals in the car, if they have a van, as an example, and brothers and sisters and grandma and grandpa are in the van, they would have to remain in the van.
In the van, right.
But they could certainly come to the facility. The only people that would be allowed to exit the car is the graduate and their two guests.
Okay.
And only two guests.
And that would only really, that would only really work if the weather was good and it was done outside where they would be able to see what was going on.
Correct. And it's not 4 guests because you put two at one time and then you can put them back in the car and get two more people out to take
No,
off.
it's still, right.
Look, it's the graduate and two guests only are part of the photographic opportunity.
Patrick, it's Tracy Allen. I'm confused on one thing. So
Sure.
we're saying that 100% there is a virtual graduation being streamed on June 18th. But in addition to that, we are also going to plan for a drive-by graduate and two guests out of the car, some sort of experience
That is correct.
on that same date. So there's actually two events taking place on June 18th. Anything in addition would be on July 8th.
So let me be real specific. For the photo opportunity where the graduate comes with their two guests, we would start at, say, 9 o'clock in the morning and conclude, let's say, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so that anybody would be able to be available to view the virtual graduation. They wouldn't be, they wouldn't conflict with one another. However, look, I'm perfectly fine with ending it right then and there, but I believe that there is some feeling in the community that they want to have also a larger group in-person setting. And I'm trying to be responsive of that. I mean, if I had my druthers, I would only do the June 18th and call it a day. But I want to provide everybody the opportunity to have that second experience where we would not be taking pictures. This would just be, basically you get down on the field, there'd be a speech or two from the students. We would consolidate all the other speeches to relatively nothing. The student would proceed across the stage. If you keep reading the guidance, there's supposed to be no exchange of anything. We're not supposed to hand diplomas. There's no shaking of hands. There's no nothing, even if you're gloved and masked. And in the larger group setting, everyone would have to wear a mask. In the individual photo opportunity, you could take the mask off for the graduate and for the family members while they're having their picture taken, because it would be staged. We would have enough distance between the actual stage and where the photographer was and the camera in between to prevent and to satisfy the social distancing obligation. So one thing I would like to just make clear, which is really, I think, fortuitous, is that in all of these guidance and all these things, all the information that we've received, they say you have to consult with local authorities. And local authorities, in our case, is the police department. Although we've had a lot of support from the mayor and council of Oradell, the mayor and council of River Edge, to try to have some meaningful way of celebrating the class of 2020. But Chief Bill Wicker, who from the Oradell Police Department, has been just an enormous help to me. He's always available by telephone. And he connected me also with the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office, who I didn't know until earlier, but the department, the Attorney General's office for the state of New Jersey has set up satellite offices in each of the 21 counties where an assistant prosecutor is responsible for the interpretation of the COVID executive orders and administrative orders. And Chief Wicker and I have had multiple conversations with the assistant prosecutor of Bergen County, who's in charge of this. And between the two of them, they've been extremely helpful to me in navigating the conflicting information that's available. So everything that I've told you regarding the in-person drive-up ceremony is accepted to, supported by local law enforcement and guidance from the Attorney General's office.
Patrick, I just want to be clear, just for the parents that are listening. So there is the virtual graduation is a definite. there is the planning of the drive-in, receive your diploma, take a picture at graduation, and the possibility of a third celebration to take place July 8th or 9th.
That is correct.
Okay, I just want to be clear so that
That is
everyone.
correct. Other
Anybody
questions
else?
from the board?
Okay, I'm going to open this up to the public. Any public comments on anything, including graduation plans?
And if I could, anybody who doesn't know how to do it, you click your screen. There'll be a little thing in the middle, a dialogue. You hit the unmute yourself.
There is a participant with her hand raised, Patty Omberg.
Yes.
Am I okay to speak?
Yes,
You are.
Patty, please
Okay,
do.
this is Patty Omberg. Thank you very much. It's nice to hear all you board members. Patrick, that's a great job with trying to really give everybody the ability to graduate in many different ways. I just want to ask or suggest if when we hopefully come back to school in September, if there's some way that we are going to help our students and our staff process what we've all experienced over the last few months. I think there's a big mental health piece to this, whether you have just being home kind of secluded.
Oh, no.
I think, we don't know who's lost people, what their experiences at home have been like, and that goes for students and for staff. And I'm just curious if there's a way, if you could talk about it. I would love to offer suggestions. I haven't come up with anything great yet. The only thing I can think that came across my mind was what we do for incoming freshmen at that, I think it's Thursday's lunch period, where they meet with peer mentors, something along those lines. I don't think these kids know even what they're experiencing. So that's just my thought.
Patty, if I could respond, it's Patrick. It's a great thought. It's something that is on the minds of anyone who's involved in the reopening process. So Bergen County Association of School Administrators has created a task force to address some issues regarding reopening, and it includes a mental health component. It just started getting it together, so I don't have anything I could enlighten you as to what's gone on before, except to say that there are a whole slew of people who are thinking just like you, that there is going to be the need to provide supports to individuals once we understand what a new normal would look like. I can also tell you that at the state of New Jersey, the governor's office has created the task force for reopening schools, and they have a specific subcommittee, if you will, that is looking at mental health supports. Again, too early to say to you anything of concrete, but there are other individuals who are thinking exactly like you regarding this matter.
Thank you. I've always been a big supporter of online learning, but never in my wildest dreams would I think it would look anything like this.
You and me both.
Thank you. Good luck with graduation.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Patty. I see Fred Smith, you have your hand raised. Do you have
Yes,
something
I'm
to
not sure
say?
if I'm not sure if I'm doing this properly, but I'd like to thank Joe Mandelli for the shout out on behalf of Bruce and I for the salute to seniors. It was our pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fred.
Do we have anybody else here with a hand raised? I'm not seeing anything. Anybody else in the public have any comments? Okay, I'm going to, at this point then, We're going to vote. I need a motion on the July dates for graduation, July 8th with a rain date of July 9th. So for that resolution, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion. It's Claudia.
I'll second. It's Stephanie.
Okay, Stephanie. And again, this is to put on the books, board approval for a July 8th in-person graduation. If the restrictions are lifted to at least 400 people, to have 2 ceremonies on that date with a rain date of July 9th. If there are no questions from the board, Tom, you're ready?
Claudia,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Tracy Ellen,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes, and hoping for a dry week.
Al,
Yes. Okay. Does anybody else on the board have anything to say before we close?
Al, it's Stephanie.
Yes, Stephanie.
Just want to take another opportunity to, whether they were honored tonight for years of service or, we've discussed it in other times, the staff has really leaned in and done the best that they could in every idiom, but certainly for our seniors, a lot of our staff are feeling like they're missing their opportunity for these kids too. And so just wanted to do a little shout out to them to say, they're their own community and they're feeling it too, and we miss them and we know they miss their kids and being in the building, and so we thank them.
We
Thank you,
certainly do.
Stephanie.
Certainly do. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else have anything? Okay, we have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion. It's Claudia.
A second, Doug.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. That's 9:07.